The golden rays of the African sun spread across the endless savanna, bathing the tall grass in a shimmering glow. The land was quiet, but underneath that calm beauty, danger and secrets always waited to reveal themselves. Near a dusty trail that wound between acacia trees and termite mounds, a lone lion stood watching the horizon. His name was Kovu, a strong, scarred lion who had become the silent guardian of his territory after surviving countless battles. But that day, something felt different. There was a smell in the air, not the usual scent of prey or rival predators, but something metallic, sharp, and human. Kovu lifted his massive head, his amber eyes narrowing. His ears twitched, and his tail flicked with unease. He had known humans before, the ones who came in their roaring metal beasts, wearing strange green clothes, carrying sticks that spat thunder. Some were cruel, but there was one man who wasn't like the others, a ranger named Daniel. Daniel had saved Kovu once when he was just a cub, wounded by a poacher's trap. The lion had never forgotten. As the warm wind brushed through the grass, Kovu caught that familiar scent again, faint, but unmistakable. It was Daniel's scent, but there was something wrong. It carried a note of fear, of struggle. His instincts sharpened instantly. Something had happened. Without hesitation, Kovu began to move. His powerful muscles rolled under his golden coat as he ran silently through the grass, paws barely making a sound. Birds burst from the trees as he passed, alarm calls echoing through the air. The savanna was alive, but Kovu's focus was unshakable. He followed the scent trail, weaving through dry shrubs and over small ridges, until he came upon a clearing that made him freeze in shock. There, under the shade of a bent acacia tree, lay Daniel, the ranger who once saved him, tied to a wooden post, wrists bound tightly with rough rope, his face pale and streaked with sweat and dust. His ranger hat had fallen nearby, and his uniform was torn. Around him, the ground was disturbed. Boot prints, tire tracks, and broken branches told a story of struggle. Kovu's heart pounded. Daniel's lips moved weakly. Help! Someone! Kovu stepped closer, his enormous paws silent in the grass. Daniel's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, disbelief flashed in them. Kovu, he whispered. The lion stopped just a few feet away, head tilted, watching him. There was pain in the ranger's voice, and confusion. Daniel had always believed wild animals acted on instinct, but as Kovu stood before him, something in those eyes seemed almost human, a flicker of memory, recognition. The lion huffed softly, lowering his head, sniffing the air around the ropes. He could smell the scent of other men, strangers, poachers. The realization hit Daniel like a bolt. They're coming back, he murmured. His voice was hoarse. They tied me here as bait. They wanted you, Kovu. They wanted the king of this land. Kovu growled deeply, a rumble that made the air tremble. His mane bristled as he turned his head, scanning the distant line of trees. Somewhere beyond, the poachers were waiting, thinking they could trap him. But they had underestimated the bond that had once formed between man and beast. The lion stepped closer, lowering his powerful jaws toward the rope. Daniel tensed, unsure if this was the end, but instead of teeth tearing into flesh, Kovu bit down on the rope, pulling, twisting. The fibers strained and snapped. Daniel gasped as his hands came free. He fell forward onto his knees, trembling. The lion stepped back, watching him silently. For a moment, man and beast just stared at one another, two souls connected by fate. But then the sound of an engine echoed in the distance. A truck. The poachers were returning. Daniel's heart leapt. Kovu, go. You have to go. But Kovu didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon, where dust was rising. He gave a low growl that seemed to shake the ground itself. Daniel struggled to his feet, still dizzy. His rifle had been thrown aside, useless, the magazine empty. He looked around desperately for something, anything to defend himself. But Kovu was already on the move. The lion prowled toward the sound of the approaching vehicle, his tail swishing slowly. Daniel wanted to stop him, but there was no time. He ducked behind the acacia tree, grabbing a fallen branch for balance. Moments later, the truck roared into view, a rusted pickup with cages in the back and 3 armed men in the front. The driver stopped when he saw the empty ropes. What the hell? He's gone. One shouted, jumping out with a rifle. Another scanned the area nervously. No, No, he couldn't have gotten away. Tie him better, you said. Now the lion. A roar split the air. The men froze. The grass rippled like waves as Kovu charged out, mane flying, eyes blazing with fury. The first man barely had time to raise his weapon before Kovu hit him full force, sending him sprawling. The others shouted and fired wildly, but the shots went astray in panic. Daniel watched from behind the tree, heart pounding, unable to believe what he was seeing. Kovu moved like a storm, every muscle coiled with power and precision. One man tried to climb back into the truck, but the lion was faster. He leapt, smashing his paw against the door, bending metal. The man fell to the ground screaming. Then silence. Only the wind and the crackle of dry grass remained. Two of the poachers had fled into the trees, the third lay unconscious. Kovu turned, panting, his chest heaving, and looked back at Daniel. His golden eyes softened. Daniel stepped forward slowly. You saved me. His voice trembled. The lion's ears flicked as if understanding. Then he turned his head slightly toward the trees where the others had run, listening. They'll come back, Daniel said quietly. They won't stop until they kill you. Kovu blinked slowly, then looked toward the horizon. The sun was dipping low now, and the savannah glowed red and orange. Daniel followed his gaze and realized what the lion was thinking. He wasn't going to run. He was going to protect his home. Daniel couldn't let him face them alone. He staggered to the truck, found a radio still working, and called in for help. Static crackled, then a faint voice answered, Ranger Post 4, we read you. Who is this? It's Daniel, he gasped. Poachers. Northern Ridge near the Acacia Grove. Send backup, now. He dropped the mic and turned back to Kovu. The lion stood like a statue, watching the horizon. The sound of another engine was faintly audible. More were coming. Daniel tightened his grip on the broken rifle and whispered, then we fight together. And with that vow between man and beast, the first part of their story faded into the blood-red sunset, a calm before the storm that was about to shake the entire savannah. The distant hum of engines grew louder. The sun had nearly vanished, painting the sky in deep crimson and gold. Shadows stretched long across the grass as the savannah prepared for another night, but Daniel and Kovu stood ready for war. The first headlights pierced the horizon, 2 trucks this time, full of armed men. The poachers had regrouped. Their leader, a tall, scar-faced man named Victor, stepped out, scanning the clearing through binoculars. He saw the broken ropes, the wrecked pickup, and his fallen man lying unconscious. His face twisted in rage. That ranger's alive, he snarled. And the lion's still here. We finish them both tonight. The men fanned out, guns raised. Daniel crouched behind a mound of earth, whispering to himself, come on, back up, hurry. But the radio was dead now, out of range. The rangers were too far away. He was alone, except for the lion standing beside him. Kovu's mane shimmered in the fading light. His eyes glowed like embers. He could sense Daniel's fear, his heartbeat pounding fast. The lion gave a low, steady growl, reassurance, not threat. Daniel looked at him and whispered, we survived once before, old friend. Let's do it again. The night erupted with gunfire. Bullets tore through the grass, sparks flying from rocks. Daniel ducked, returning fire when he could. Kovu roared and charged, moving like a phantom between shadows. The poachers shouted in terror. None had ever seen a lion fight with such fury. One man aimed carefully, waiting for Kovu to leap, but before he could fire, Daniel's bullet found him. The man fell. The others panicked, retreating toward their trucks. Victor stayed behind, clutching his rifle and screaming orders. Kovu lunged at him. The man fired. The bullet grazed the lion's shoulder, but Kovu didn't stop. He slammed into Victor, knocking the rifle aside. The man hit the ground hard, rolling, scrambling for his pistol. Daniel saw it. Kovu, no. He shouted, but Kovu had already pounced. The gun went flying, landing near Daniel's feet. The two opponents stared at each other, Victor's breath ragged, the lion's growl low and cold. The man tried to crawl backward, reaching for a knife at his belt, but Kovu's paw came down, pinning him. The lion didn't kill him. Instead, he looked at Daniel. A silent question, a choice. Daniel walked over slowly, picked up the pistol, and pointed it, not at the lion, but at Victor. You're going to answer for every animal you've slaughtered. Victor glared but didn't move. Kovu stepped back, watching as Daniel cuffed the poacher's hands using his own belt. Then he turned toward the forest, growling. The remaining men were fleeing. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then Daniel heard the faint wail of sirens in the distance, the ranger convoy. He exhaled shakily and turned to Kovu. It's over. But Kovu swayed on his feet. Blood dripped from his shoulder, staining his golden coat. Daniel rushed forward. No, 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 stay with me, big guy. He tore another piece of his sleeve and pressed it to the wound. The lion winced but stayed still. Minutes later, the rangers arrived. They jumped out, guns ready, but Daniel shouted, "Hold your fire." They froze as they saw the scene. A bound poacher, destroyed vehicles, and a massive lion standing quietly beside their wounded comrade. "Daniel," one ranger called, eyes wide, "that's the lion everyone's been talking about." Daniel just smiled weakly. "Yeah, he's the reason I'm alive." The men tended to his wounds, and soon, the lion turned, limping toward the open plains. Daniel tried to stand, but his strength was gone. "Let him go," he said softly. "He belongs to the wild." The next morning, the story made headlines. Ranger saved by the king of the savannah. Reporters wanted interviews, pictures, explanations. But Daniel said little. He just repeated one line. "He saved me because once, I saved him." Weeks passed. Life at the reserve went back to normal. The poachers were captured, their operation dismantled. But Daniel often found himself staring out at the horizon, wondering where Kovu was. Then one dawn, while he was on patrol near a watering hole, he saw movement through the mist. His heart skipped. There, a massive shape emerged. It was Kovu, his mane shining, his limp gone. Beside him walked 2 lionesses and 3 tiny cubs tumbling playfully at his feet. Daniel froze, overcome with emotion. Kovu raised his head and looked at him from across the water. Their eyes met again. Calm, strong, familiar. The lion gave a deep rumble, almost like a greeting. Daniel whispered, "I'll never forget you, my friend." The lion stood tall, gave one final roar that echoed across the plains, and turned away, disappearing into the glowing sunrise with his new family. Daniel watched until they vanished, a faint smile on his lips. He finally understood. This wasn't just about saving a life. It was about respect, gratitude, and the silent connection that bound 2 souls forever. From that day, every night as the wind howled through the grasslands, Daniel would hear distant roars echoing across the savannah. And every time, he'd close his eyes, knowing it was Kovu, reminding him that some bonds are eternal. And truly, what happened between them shocked everyone.